We're here at Blind Dog Coffee with Yulia and Ian Barry, proprietors and roast masters. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Blind Dog Coffee, there's history and a real meaningful story how this company got its start, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
It really started about the age of 2 for my father. He had a cancer called retinoblastoma, and at that point in today, the survival rate was extremely low. My grandparents took him down to Stanford, which was about the only place that knew about retinoblastoma, and the left eye had to be immediately removed. And the right eye was able to be heavily radiated. For the next 46 years, he's able to see until he was 48. At that point of 48, he's driving down the road and realized that his vision was starting to be impaired, just like you were drinking. And he thought that he wasn't drinking, but he thought, oh, I need to go get my eyesight checked. Called his doctor, went in for an eye checkup, and that was the end of his eyesight. It was starting to deteriorate. The radiation was starting to deteriorate the retina and the optical nerve in the eye. And from then on, he had a year and a half to learn how to do something new. And that is where the coffee from Blind Dog Coffee started. Was he had a year and a half with friends in the business to call, to test, to sample, go to classes, and learn everything that he needed to learn about the coffee industry. And from there, he was able to roast and start planning out his business. Blind Dog Coffee was really going to be a roastery with a bunch of coffee houses. That was right before the crash of 2008. And so he went from that to take me to the closest grocery store so I can see if I can sell a bag of coffee. And at that point, he wasn't even really roasting the product. He just knew what he was going to do. Went into Scolari's, and Scolari's gave him his first opportunity to sell coffee. Went to Whole Foods. Whole Foods said, go ahead. And once he had Scolari's and Whole Foods, he went to Raley's, and Raley's says, yeah, if you've got it in those stores, we'll put it in ours. And this was all before he even had a product to sell.
Wow.
The roasting of the coffee really just takes our senses. And with that, he was able to take about a year and a half before he was fully blind of learning the different processes and what happens in the roasting. And once he was able to roast coffee, well then Blind Dog Coffee was created. Right now we're in a process where it's going to bottom out. It means that the heat and the beans are going to become the same temperature at a certain point. It takes about a minute and a half for it to bottom out. And then we'll just make certain adjustments as that bottoms out. The process changes. We don't want too much air in the beginning, but then as it gets later on the roast, we want more air. It'll help clean out the roasting. There's multiple ways to do a technique. My dad's technique created was doing your develop in the middle of the roast. So as I go through here and I get to certain temperatures, I have to adjust my airflow, my damper. That way the developing of the coffee is developed right. With all of this here this is just roasting air. It's allowing me to adjust how much flow so the smoke doesn't sit and accumulate in the roaster, and that way we don't get a smoky flavor. For certain roasts we want that smoky flavor, like the Death Valley French roast. I won't adjust my air as much. You can already start smelling the fruit. You can smell the vinegar and the fruit on that one. Ooh. Right now you hear the first crack. That loud noise, that rumbling of that crack, that's the first initial crack of the roasting process. That's when the bean is starting to expand. Now we're dry, there's no more moisture in the bean. That is left at the first stage of Mylar, which is about 310. It's when your bean starts going from a green to an orangish color. Right here, what I'm looking for when I take these beans and I crack them open and look, I'm just looking for evenness of the roast inside throughout the bean. And then what I make sure is a nice roasted bean should be able to crack nice and easily. When you look in there, we're gonna have a nice, even, dark cocoa look. Nice dark roasted product. Right now the coffee is cooling. This keeps it rotating, that way nothing is sit and builds up the heat, continues on roasting. And then what you hear going on as well is there's a fan, and that fan is sucking out any extra hot air. That way we can cool within 4 to 6 minutes. After our roasting process is cooled and ready to go into the next step, it goes to the destoner. And what the destoner does, the destoner takes out objects like this. And from here, the coffee will be stored in here for a day or so, no more, because we don't want any air to get to it. Then it goes to the packaging. And from here, it'll be bagged and sealed and then sent to you lovely customers. Today, I'm proud to say that we are in Costco's, distributed through US Foods and First Choice, as well as Walmart's. And my passion and my goal is to fulfill my father's dream and making this company a global coffee company. And keep your eye out for Blind Dog Coffee's first coffee house. And as my dad would say, can't wait to see ya.
Ian, the story is powerful, just as it is. But what makes this even more impressive is the vision of Blind Dog Coffee to give back. If you wouldn't mind sharing what that looks like.
To start off that conversation a little bit, Angel Kiss Foundation was the first Northern Nevada childhood cancer foundation. And what that evolved into was Northern Nevada Children Cancer Foundation. And that's our give back. We try to do as much as we can to help them in any way. We've got a monthly program that we ship them coffee and they utilize it to their families in need, as well as they created a tree in their office of areas and people who donate a certain amount. Since the beginning of Blind Dog Coffee, my dad wanted to make sure that he gave back, so he tied himself with Angel Kiss Foundation, which was the original Northern Nevada Children Cancer Foundation. So halfway through that, they changed the name, and we just tied ourselves to that. And as we tied ourselves to that, when you buy a portion of Blind Dog Coffee, we donate a portion of our proceeds to Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation. That's our way of giving back, and we just want to continue growing that to be one of Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation's biggest sponsors. Tanner's Roast is a tribute roast to a little boy who had the same cancer as my father, which is retinoblastoma. The tie for Tanner and Blind Dog Coffee was his grandparents' house was behind my parents' property. And that little boy would come on a regular basis and hang out with my father. Tanner was about 3 years old when my parents met Tanner, and they knew him for the next 2 years. This roast was created in his memory, and his family has asked us to keep this roast alive in his honor.
That's Ian and Yulia Berry. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Great coffee, great cause. And if you want to get your order in, you can give them a call at 775-265-2176 or visit them at blinddogcoffee.com or find them at one of their distributors.
Absolutely.
Thanks again so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in once again. It was a pleasure.